When you learn to use words that build emotional safety, you begin to unlock a part of a man that very few people ever reach. Emotional safety is not softness alone, nor is it blind acceptance. It is the feeling of being understood without judgment, valued without conditions, and welcomed without fear. Most people don't realize this, but men carry emotional wounds they rarely express. They hide their disappointments, their insecurities, their fears, and their exhaustion behind silence and strength. They walk through life pretending they don't need reassurance, pretending they don't care, pretending nothing affects them. But inside them is a quiet longing, a desire to feel safe enough to be fully human with someone. And when your words given that space, you become unforgettable. There is a way you can speak that makes him feel like he can exhale after holding his breath for years. A way you can listen that makes him feel like he doesn't have to perform to be accepted. A way you can respond that makes him feel seen, not judged. When you speak with empathy rather than accusation, when you use curiosity instead of criticism, when you offer understanding instead of assumptions, you open the door to his heart without force. Emotional safety is created not by perfect words, but by intentional ones. It's created when you choose to understand before reacting, when you choose to ask instead of accuse, when you choose presence over pressure. When he feels you are the one person who doesn't attack him for being human, he starts to trust you. He starts to soften. He starts to let you in. Because what a man fears most is not losing love, but losing respect. And when your words show him that he is respected, appreciated, and safe to express himself, he feels something deeper than attraction. He feels connected. You can create emotional safety by using phrases that acknowledge his effort, his intentions, and his humanity. Simple lines like, I understand, I'm listening, I hear you, it's okay to feel that, or I appreciate what you're trying to do, are powerful. They tell him that his heart is not a burden, that his weaknesses are not weapons against him, that his emotions are not something he has to hide from you. These words remind him that he doesn't have to be perfect to be loved, and that truth alone can make him feel closer to you than anything else. But emotional safety also comes from the tone in which you speak. You can say the right words with the wrong tone and still push him away. Tone carries energy, and energy carries intention. When you speak with calmness instead of chaos, with clarity instead of confusion, with softness instead of sharpness, he feels safe enough to open up. Your voice becomes a place he can land, a place where he doesn't have to guard himself. Most men don't express their emotions because they fear being misunderstood or dismissed. They fear being told they're overreacting, being laughed at, or being seen as weak. But when your words create an emotional environment where he feels safe to be vulnerable, something inside him shifts. He begins to see you not as someone he dates, but as someone he trusts. Not as someone who listens, but as someone who understands. Not as someone who likes him, but as someone who values him. That shift is rare, and once a man feels it, he doesn't forget it. Emotional safety doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means having them with compassion, honesty, and respect. You can address hurt without attacking. You can express your needs without threatening the relationship. You can ask for clarity without assuming the worst. When he sees that you can communicate your truth without tearing him down, he feels proud to open his heart to you. He feels safe sharing his fears, his dreams, his insecurities, and his hopes. This level of emotional connection is what makes him feel deeply bonded to you. You must also understand that emotional safety is created through consistency. It's not about one conversation, one moment of softness, or one comforting line. It's about showing him over time that your words can be trusted, that your reactions are grounded, that your presence is steady. When he knows that he can come to you without being belittled or dismissed, he will naturally come closer. He will naturally stop pulling away. He will naturally choose you, not because you demanded it, but because you made him feel a kind of peace he doesn't find anywhere else. Your words have the power to calm the storms inside him, to give him strength when he doubts himself, to offer him softness when the world is hard on him. Your voice can be the place where he feels like he doesn't have to pretend. And when a man finds that kind of safety with you, he becomes loyal in a way he cannot explain. Not because he is obsessed with you, but because he feels understood by you. Not because he needs you, but because he feels connected to you. not because he fears losing you, but because he knows he has found something rare. When you use words that build emotional safety, you don't just make him feel attracted to you. You make him feel anchored. You make him feel supported. You make him feel valued. And a man who feels emotionally safe with you does not walk away easily. Because emotional safety is not just a technique. It's a feeling. And feelings are what bond people on the deepest level. Speak in a way that makes him feel safe to be himself, and he will give you a version of his heart he has never given anyone else. When you learn to use your words to spark emotional desire, something powerful begins to happen, because emotional desire is not born from looks, status, or the surface level qualities we often worry about. Emotional desire comes from how someone feels when they are in your presence, how you speak to their soul, and how you awaken parts of them they didn't even realize were asleep. When your words touch a man emotionally, he feels drawn to you in a way he cannot rationalize or resist. It is not about manipulation. It is about connection, about speaking in a way that makes him feel alive, inspired, and deeply seen. Many people underestimate the ability of words to shift the emotional temperature in someone's heart, but words, when spoken with intention and authenticity, have the power to create an experience that a man keeps replaying in his mind long after you walk away. Emotional desire begins when he feels that you are speaking to who he truly is, not just who he appears to be. When you acknowledge his strength, but also recognize the softer parts he hides, he feels a spark inside. When you appreciate his efforts, when you notice the little things no one else does, when you speak to his potential and not just his present, he feels a pull toward you that goes far beyond physical attraction. A man becomes emotionally drawn to someone who gives him a taste of something rare, something meaningful, something that doesn't feel easily replaceable. He becomes hooked on the feeling of being valued in a way that feels both comforting and energizing. The secret is that emotional desire grows not from constant praise, but from emotional contrast. It is created when you show warmth, but also challenge him to rise. When you offer softness, but also strength. When you show you care, yet hold your standards. When you speak with love, but also with truth. This balance creates a dynamic that awakens something primal in him, because he feels both safe and excited, both grounded and inspired. Your words become the emotional spark that lights his interest, deepens his attraction, and keeps his attention locked on you. Using words that spark emotional desire is about speaking with intention, which means you are not just reacting to situations, but consciously choosing how you want him to feel in your presence. For example, when he opens up about something vulnerable, instead of brushing it off or giving generic reassurance, you can say something like, "I love that you shared that with me. It shows a part of your strength most people never see." A line like this makes him feel appreciated for his depth, and that feeling is addictive. When he tells you about something he is passionate about, you can respond with curiosity and admiration, letting him feel that his thoughts matter. When he shares his goals, you can reflect belief back to him in a way that boosts his confidence. These are moments that create emotional desire because they make him feel energized by your presence, understood in a way he craves, and valued in ways he rarely experiences. Emotional desire also forms when your words challenge him to grow, not by tearing him down, but by elevating him. When you say something like, "I see how capable you are, and I know you can go even further," you ignite a fire inside him. You become a voice that pushes him upward, not because he needs your approval, but because your perspective strengthens him. Men are attracted to women who inspire them to be better, not through pressure, but through belief. When he feels that your presence brings out the best in him, he associates you with progress, with movement, with evolution, and that feeling is magnetic. Your time and timing also matter deeply. Sometimes it is not what you say, but how you say it. When your voice drops into sincerity, when your eyes soften with understanding, when your energy becomes peaceful, your words hit him differently. Men are starved for emotional nourishment, even if they never say it. A kind tone can melt walls he has spent years building. A thoughtful line can echo in his mind for days. A moment of gentle affirmation can make him feel closer to you than he has felt to anyone in a long time. But emotional desire also comes from your boundaries, because boundaries communicate emotional worth. When you express what you need clearly, calmly, and confidently, he feels respect for you. When you show that you are not afraid to walk away from treatment that doesn't honor you, he feels drawn to your strength. When you maintain your standards without guilt, he feels a desire to rise to meet you. Words that express your boundaries with grace create emotional desire because they show that you value yourself, and nothing attracts a man more powerfully than a woman who knows her value. When you use your words to spark emotional desire, you create a connection that goes beyond the surface, beyond convenience, beyond temporary attraction. You touch his mind, you stir his emotions, and you awaken his heart. He starts thinking about you when he wakes up, wondering what you would think of his decisions, hearing your voice in his mind at random moments. Your presence becomes a feeling he seeks. Your energy becomes something he wants more of. Your words become the emotional imprint that keeps him connected even when you are not around. When you speak in a way that brings out his emotions, his ambitions, his confidence, and his vulnerability, you become someone who is not easily forgotten. You become someone who makes him feel alive. You become someone who touches him in places nothing else reaches. An emotional desire, once lit, becomes the driving force that keeps him choosing you, craving you, and committing to you with more depth than he ever expected. When you allow your curiosity to guide your conversations, you unlock a level of connection that most people never reach because genuine curiosity is rare, and people can feel the difference between someone who is listening just to respond and someone who is listening to truly understand. A man becomes deeply drawn to the person who makes him feel interesting, valued, and worth exploring, and this happens not when you give perfect answers, but when you ask the kinds of questions that open the door to his inner world. When you show curiosity, you invite him to express the parts of himself he keeps hidden, and in doing so, you become someone he associates with comfort, safety, and emotional freedom. Curiosity is your bridge to intimacy, your pathway to understanding, and the spark that transforms ordinary conversations into unforgettable experiences. When you ask questions that go beyond the surface, you make him feel seen in a way he may not have felt in years. You can ask him about his dreams, his fears, the things that shaped him, the things he wants to become, or even the things he regrets. Men rarely get asked deep questions, so when you take the time to explore his thoughts, he feels something shift inside him. He begins to see you not as someone who is just present, but as someone who is paying attention, someone who genuinely wants to understand him, someone who values the layers beneath his personality. This kind of curiosity is powerful because it touches the emotional part of him that physical attraction alone cannot reach. Curiosity also creates connection because it shows that you are not assuming who he is. You are discovering who he is. When you ask about his experiences, his opinions, and his perspective, you communicate that he is not just another person passing through your life. You show that his voice matters, his story matters, and his presence matters. This makes him open up in ways he does not with others. He starts telling you stories he hasn't told anyone. He starts sharing memories he thought he had forgotten. He starts revealing pieces of himself he usually keeps locked away. This level of openness builds emotional attachment, and emotional attachment is what keeps him coming back to you, thinking about you, and missing you. Your curiosity also teaches him something important. It teaches him that he can be vulnerable with you without judgment. Many men fear vulnerability because they have learned to equate it with weakness or rejection. But when you ask questions gently, without pressure or criticism, he learns that he is safe with you. This is how emotional closeness is built, not through force, but through an environment where he feels free to share what is real. And when a man feels emotionally safe with someone, he develops a bond that feels irreplaceable. Curiosity also allows you to guide conversations to deeper emotional places. Instead of remaining stuck in small talk, you can gently shift the energy by asking things like, what made that moment important to you? Or why does that matter so much to you? Or what did you learn from that experience? These kinds of questions deepen the emotional layers of the conversation and strengthen the bond between you. He starts associating you with meaningful moments and deeper emotional clarity. You become the person who helps him reflect, understand himself better, and feel understood at the same time. That is a powerful emotional combination, and it naturally pulls him closer. When you use curiosity with confidence, you also show something incredibly attractive. You show that you are not afraid of depth. Many conversations today are shallow, rushed, or distracted. When you slow down and ask meaningful questions, you communicate that you value quality over noise, connection over chaos, truth over performance. This makes you stand out immediately. You become the calm in a world that is always loud, the presence that feels refreshing instead of overwhelming, the person who brings clarity instead of confusion. A man becomes addicted to this energy because it gives his mind rest and his heart space. Curiosity also helps you understand him on a level that allows you to respond with emotional intelligence. When you truly listen to his answers, you start understanding what motivates him, what scares him, what he longs for, and what he avoids. You start learning his emotional language, the things that make him open up and the things that shut him down. This level of understanding allows you to connect with him in a way that feels natural and effortless. It prevents misunderstandings, strengthens trust, and builds a connection that feels deeper than anything he experiences with others. When you show genuine curiosity, you also reflect value back to him. You make him feel important, respected, and worthy of being understood. You make him feel like the details of his life matter. You make him feel like he is a person worth discovering. And that feeling becomes powerful because most men do not receive it. They receive attention for what they do, not who they are. But you become the exception. You become the one who sees the man beneath the armor. You become the one who pays attention to the parts people overlook. And because of that, he begins to feel a strong attachment to you, one that grows with every conversation. Curiosity brings closeness. Curiosity builds trust. Curiosity deepens emotional attraction. Curiosity creates memories. And when you use curiosity as a tool to learn him, understand him, and explore him, you become unforgettable because people never forget the ones who make them feel truly seen. When you allow silence to do the work that words cannot, you unlock a level of emotional power that most people overlook. Because silence is not emptiness, silence is presence. And presence speaks in a language that touches a man far deeper than constant talking ever could. When you use silence wisely, you create space, and space is where longing grows, where desire builds, where curiosity awakens, and where emotional hunger forms. Most people rush to fill silence because they fear it, but silence, when held with confidence, becomes one of the most magnetic tools you can use, because it communicates strength, certainty, calm, and emotional self-control. When you stop rushing to fill every moment with words, you allow him to feel you instead of just hearing you. Silence teaches him something about you that words never will. It teaches him that you are comfortable with yourself, that you do not need constant validation to feel steady, and that you can exist in your own presence without anxiety. This is incredibly attractive because it shows him that you are not leaning on him to fill your emotional gaps. When a woman can sit in silence without losing her confidence, without panicking, without over-explaining herself, she becomes rare. Her energy feels grounded, peaceful, and powerful. He feels drawn to that calm because so many people today are overwhelmed, chaotic, or emotionally reactive. Silence becomes a soft form of strength, a quiet force that makes him want to lean closer. Silence also gives him room to approach. When you talk nonstop, when you explain everything, when you fill every space with effort, he does not get the chance to miss you, to wonder about you, to feel the pull of your presence. But when you create space, when you pause, when you let moments breathe, he feels something shift inside him. He begins to move toward you instead of you constantly moving toward him. Silence invites him in. Silence encourages him to open up. Silence gives him the chance to rise and meet you. And when he steps forward, he does it with desire instead of obligation. When you are silent, you also remove pressure. Sometimes a man needs a moment to gather his thoughts, to understand his feelings, or to process what he wants to say. And when you give him that room, he associates you with emotional safety rather than emotional demand. Silence makes him feel more comfortable expressing himself because he doesn't feel rushed, judged, or pushed. He feels the calmness of your energy, and that calmness becomes the space where he can be vulnerable. Most men fall for the person who listens without interrupting, without rushing, without controlling the pace. Silence becomes your way of saying, I am here and I don't need to force anything. That kind of presence melts emotional barriers. Silence also deepens attraction because it creates contrast. When you speak after a moment of silence, your words hit harder, your emotions feel deeper, and the energy between you becomes more intense. Silence makes your voice more powerful, not because it is louder, but because it is more intentional. When you pause before responding, you show emotional maturity. When you pause after saying something meaningful, you give it weight. When you pause instead of reacting impulsively, you show control. Men are drawn to that control because it communicates self-respect, confidence, and emotional intelligence. Silence becomes your way of showing that you are a thinker, not just a reactor. Silence also helps you observe him more clearly. When you are not focused on responding, when you are not filling space with nervous words, you notice his body language, his tone, his hesitation, his excitement, and the emotions behind what he says. Silence gives you information. It reveals who he is when he is not performing. It reveals whether he seeks closeness or avoids it. It reveals whether he steps into the space you create or pulls away from it. Silence becomes your window into his heart, allowing you to understand him more deeply than he realizes. And when he does step into the silence, when he fills it with his thoughts, his questions, his emotional sharing, he feels closer to you than he did before. Why? Because he is investing, he is participating, he is giving something. Silence encourages him to put effort into the connection, and people value what they invest in. When you give space instead of constant emotional chasing, he feels motivated to move towards you, talk to you, ask about you, and understand you. Silence makes him work, and when he works, he becomes more emotionally attached. Silence also strengthens your boundaries without you having to say a word. When you go quiet after disrespect, he feels the shift immediately. When you pause before responding to something confusing or disappointing, he senses your standard. When you withdraw your energy naturally, not angrily, not dramatically, just quietly, he realizes that your presence is not guaranteed. Silence creates respect because it communicates that you will not fight for attention, you will not beg for effort, you will not argue for love. Silence becomes your line in the sand. Most importantly, silence makes him miss you. Not because you are playing games, but because silence creates emotional space, and emotional space creates emotional craving. When you are not constantly available, when your energy is not overflowing, he becomes more aware of what you bring to his life. He starts thinking about your voice, your presence, your warmth, your laugh, your calm, your softness, your strength. Silence allows the emotional memory of you to surface, and that memory becomes desire. When you use silence as part of your emotional rhythm, you become someone who feels grounded, mysterious, confident, and deeply attractive. You become the presence he cannot shake, the energy he seeks, the calm he craves, and the person he misses even when you aren't speaking at all. When you protect your emotional energy, you create a presence that becomes irresistible, because people are drawn to what feels selective, intentional, and valuable. Your emotional energy is not something you give to everyone. It is something you choose to share with the people who earn it, appreciate it, and treat it with respect. When a man feels that your energy is precious and not freely scattered, he becomes more attentive, more invested, and more aware of how he shows up around you. Protecting your energy is not about withholding affection. It is about honoring your worth so deeply that anyone who wants to be part of your life must meet the standard you set for yourself. Protecting your energy begins with recognizing what drains you and what nourishes you. When you keep giving your emotions to someone who is inconsistent, confusing, unavailable, or careless with your feelings, you slowly teach them that your heart is something they can access without effort. But when you step back, when you stop pouring yourself into situations that do not give back, when you quietly pull your energy away from chaos, he feels the shift immediately. He feels the absence of your warmth, your attention, your softness, your kindness, and your emotional presence. And that feeling creates desire because people only miss what they no longer have unlimited access to. A woman who protects her energy becomes powerful because her presence is no longer a constant. Her affection is no longer guaranteed, and her attention is no longer something someone can take for granted. Your energy becomes a privilege, not a right, and that shift changes everything. He begins to realize that your emotional world is something he must value, something he must protect, and something he must treat with care. Protecting your energy teaches people how to treat you without you having to say a single word. When you protect your energy, you stop over-explaining yourself. You stop chasing clarity from someone who refuses to offer it. You stop giving emotional reactions to someone who only seeks attention. You stop arguing with someone who has already shown you how much effort they are willing to give. Protecting your energy is not about punishment. It is about boundaries, and boundaries create attraction because they show emotional maturity, self-respect, and inner strength. A man cannot admire you if you do not admire yourself. He cannot value you if you do not value yourself. Protecting your energy is how you show the world exactly what you believe you deserve. When you protect your energy, you become more selective with your time. You stop wasting hours waiting for someone to choose you, reply to you, validate you, or prioritize you. You start using that time to build yourself, to nurture your life, to grow your mindset, to strengthen your confidence. And as you grow, your energy becomes richer, fuller, and more magnetic. Men fall for women who have a life they are proud of, women who are not defined by someone else's attention, women who are grounded in their own identity. When you protect your energy, you step into that version of yourself. A man becomes obsessed when he realizes your energy is something he needs to work for, something he needs to rise to meet, something he needs to earn with consistency and effort. Protecting your energy creates a natural filter. The ones who only want it convenience fade away, and the ones who have serious intentions become clearer in their actions. You stop guessing, you stop doubting, and you stop accepting less than you deserve. Your energy becomes a mirror that reflects people's true intentions. Those who are serious step up, those who are not fade away. Protecting your energy also means you stop giving emotional responses to behavior that does not align with your worth. When someone pulls away, you do not chase. When someone becomes distant, you do not beg. When someone shows inconsistency, you do not try harder. Instead, you step back, you breathe, you let people show you who they are. Your silence becomes stronger than any emotional reaction. Your calm becomes louder than any argument. Your absence becomes more powerful than your presence. This is how you protect your energy, by choosing peace over chaos, dignity over desperation, and self-worth over temporary emotions. A man becomes deeply drawn to the woman who values her peace. When he feels that your energy is not chaotic, not desperate, not needy, but steady, peaceful, and self-contained, he becomes more attracted because peace is rare, stability is rare, emotional clarity is rare. You become the calm he wants to return to, the softness he craves, the presence he respects. Protecting your energy is not just about keeping negative influences away. It is about nurturing the parts of you that make you unforgettable. When you protect your energy, your conversations become more intentional, your presence becomes more meaningful, your affection becomes more valuable. He starts paying attention to your moods, your silence, your boundaries, your standards. He becomes more careful with his words, more thoughtful with his actions, more aware of his decisions. Because he knows your energy is not something he can play with. It is something he must protect if he wants to stay close to you. In the end, protecting your emotional energy is how you teach the world what your heart is worth. It is how you attract people who love you with depth instead of convenience. It is how you inspire respect without demanding it. It is how you create connection without losing yourself. When you protect your energy, you become a woman who is not just desired but cherished, not just wanted but valued, not just interesting but unforgettable. When you let him feel the space you leave behind, you allow desire to grow in the most natural, powerful, and unforgettable way, because longing cannot form when you are always present, always available, always filling every moment with effort. Longing is born in the quiet, in the pauses, in the distance where he suddenly becomes aware of how much your presence matters. When you step back with confidence instead of fear, when you create just enough space for him to breathe, to think, to feel, that is the moment he begins to understand your value more deeply than he ever could when you stood right in front of him trying to prove it. Space is not absence. Space is opportunity.